Welcome to Hannity. We begin tonight, this busy Friday news night, with a Fox News alert. Tonight, we are witnessing what will be a massive paradigm shift in the future of disease control and prevention. A bold new precedent is being set. The world will once again benefit greatly from America's leadership. Will give us reason to be proud as a country. The federal government, state governments, private businesses, top hospitals, all coming together under the president's leadership to stem the tide of the coronavirus. Now, the announcement came earlier today in the Rose Garden. The president declared a national emergency, freeing up to $50 billion in new funding. Now, that new funding will be crucial to what is a major groundbreaking public-private partnership, all designed to protect the health, the well-being of the American family, our family. That means your loved ones, everybody. Take a look.
To unleash the full power of the federal government in this effort today, I am officially declaring a national emergency. Two very big words. The action I am taking will open up access to up to $50 billion. Today we're announcing a new partnership with private sector to vastly increase and accelerate our capacity to test for the coronavirus. We want to make sure that those who need a test can get a test very safely, quickly, and conveniently. We've been in discussions with pharmacies and retailers to make drive-through tests available in the critical locations identified by public health professionals.
What happened today? Gone is the old way of thinking. Government walls itself off, tries to solve problems all on its own, and now, thanks to really a deal maker in chief, an entrepreneur, lifelong businessman in the White House, there is now a new way to solve crisis that has been developed and is unfolding before our very eyes. You're witnessing history in the making. And with the help of the most amazing companies in this country, private sector companies, the administration is now created what will be the most robust plan, never tried before, to battle the coronavirus across all 50 states. Today, we heard from representatives from several major companies involved, America's biggest and best corporations. By the way, they deserve to be praised tonight. Look at your screen. Walmart, Alphabet, a.k.a. Google, Walgreens, Target, CVS, Quest Diagnostics, LHC Group, Becton Dickinson, Roche, Signify Health, LabCorp are all playing a role here. Now, here's what you need to know. With the help of Google's parent company, a brand new website is being developed where Americans can go to determine if and when and where they should go to get a test for coronavirus. 1,700 Google professionals working on that. New drive-through test sites are now in the works all across the country. This will drastically reduce the spread of this virus and future viruses. Hospitals, frankly, are in many cases where many people become infected. When fully up and running, this will also take much-needed pressure off of hospitals and leave beds open to those that are most in need. In the coming days, they'll be setting up in parking lots of big box realtors like Walmart, Target, and other big stores. And meanwhile, U.S. drug and testing companies have now developed a rapid new way to test for the coronavirus. And according to officials, results from the new test kits should take around 24 hours. With just one stroke of a pen, all of the bureaucracy, all of the weeks, all of the testing, all of the approvals happened in hours. Of course, this is only but one facet of the president's public-private partnership. The administration has developed similar relationships with hospitals and universities and insurance companies and American banks, all in an effort to keep you safe and combat this pandemic and get our economy back on track. This is, frankly, America at its best. These are the doctors, the medical researchers, the scientists, the entrepreneurs rising to the occasion as great patriots in a crisis. These are the people I've been telling you now about for weeks that I put the most faith in. None of these companies had to partner with the administration. They didn't have to do it. They did it because they love the country, they care about their fellow Americans, and they're committed to saving lives. This, frankly, what we saw today can only happen in this great country of America. This is free market capitalism at its best. How many of these companies, by the way, have you heard demonized over the years? Oh, big pharmaceutical companies. Oh, the Walmarts of the world. Wow. Maybe they deserve a pat on the back today. Made possible by the president leading the way. What we all need to understand tonight is all of this did not happen in one day. It did not happen overnight. As one official put it, this has been in the works behind the scenes for quite some time, outside the view of the media mob and, of course, the general public, because there was no guarantee this would all come together the way it has. Take a look.
I understand that a lot of this behind-the-scenes action over the last couple of weeks was invisible to the press and the American people. But this intense effort has not only resulted in innovative solutions, but an automated, high-throughput system bringing the availability of these quality coronavirus testing to the American people at unprecedented speed.
Now, ultimately, all of this work covers three very important areas: testing, treatment, economic recovery, and the implementation is well underway. For more context, let's go back to the timeline. This is very important. December 30th, the WHO, they discover an unknown virus with pneumonia-like symptoms that was first observed in the Wuhan province area of China. January 7th, the coronavirus was first identified. That's of this year. By January 31st, 3 weeks later, the president, the Trump administration, declared a public health emergency. Americans abroad were then subject to mandatory quarantines on military bases. On February 2nd, the president ordered a temporary travel ban for all non-U.S. citizens who recently visited China. In the days that followed, the president formed a task force filled with the top scientific medical professionals in the country, led by the Vice President of the United States. February 29th, that travel ban was extended to Iran. On the same day, the State Department issued new travel restrictions to Italy and South Korea. Also on the 29th, the FDA cut regulations, allowing more rapid testing, more capacity for coronavirus. March 2nd, President Trump met with pharmaceutical executives. These meetings now will come into a broader picture of what was going on. March the 3rd, the administration ordered the CDC to lift all restrictions on testing. March the 6th, the president, he signed an $8.3 billion emergency spending package into law. On March the 10th, the president met with insurance industry representatives. Remember, they agreed to waive co-pays for corona-related treatment. On March the 11th, he met with banking and business executives to discuss economic relief for those businesses directly impacted by the virus, and hourly workers, the same thing. On the same day, he extended the temporary travel ban to all of continental Europe. These travel bans were critically important. Why? Because it prevented many other Americans from getting infected or contracting this virus. Take a look.
Our aggressive containment strategy, has it started early enough to avoid that peak that Italy is experiencing?
As I mentioned, there are two components of that. There's preventing from without to in, and there's what you do mitigation in. Clearly, early on, we made a travel ban with regard to China. That was a very smart move right there, because what that did was prevent a major influx from China. Today, the new China is Europe.
By the way, breaking just moments ago, President Trump just announced his support for the congressional coronavirus relief package. We'll have more on that coming up. Dr. Fauci is exactly right, but will anyone in the media mob, the Democratic Party, have they given the president any credit for anything he has done? Not one thing. In February, there he was, quid pro quo Joe, other top Democrats. President implements the travel ban. He's called hysterical and xenophobic. And neither Biden or Bernie Sanders would have ever enacted the ban, and they're bragging about it even still today. Old school, old model, bureaucrat swamp thinking. In fact, for more perspective, let's take a look at the H1N1 pandemic. Swine flu, 2009, 2010. Yes, the Obama-Biden years. This fast-spreading pandemic worldwide, particularly deadly to children, unlike corona, which is more deadly to older people. In April of 2009, yes, Obama and Biden years, a few days after the pandemic was detected in the U.S., Obama's HHS secretary declared a health emergency, freeing up some money. I'll give credit. That was a good move. By October of 2009, well, more than 20,000 Americans had been hospitalized, and more than 1,000 American citizens were dead. 1,000. And only then, 6 months later, did then President Obama finally declare a national emergency. That year, the CDC estimated 60.8 million Americans were infected, which ultimately resulted in over 274,000 Americans being hospitalized and nearly 13,000 Americans in a one-year period dying. Worldwide, upwards of 575,000 people died in 2009 from swine flu, H1N1. The Obama-Biden administration, or as Joe says, the O'Biden-Bama administration, they never enacted a travel ban, not once during the H1N1 pandemic. There were no quarantines. They weren't quick to act to declare an emergency. 1,000 Americans were dead. And by the way, others were infected. Now, the media mob, how did they react back then? You think they were going as hard as they are against Obama and Biden as they've been going after Trump, and they did next to nothing? If you want to know how corrupt the media mob in this country is, you should be disgusted by what I'm about to show you. This was after 1,000 Americans were dead. Tens of thousands had contracted the disease. Oh, then he decides to declare a national emergency. Great timing. Now let's watch the media coverage.
Let's talk about this is something that is concerning a whole lot of people these days. We're talking about the H1N1 and now the President Barack Obama declaring the swine flu outbreak a national emergency.
Should there be a worst case scenario? But administration officials are emphasizing here, Frederica, it's not that they are expecting one.
More than 1,000 people in the U.S. have died from the H1N1 virus, 90 in the last week. The federal government had predicted there would be 100 million doses of vaccine by now, but as of this weekend, about 11 million were available. When we hear emergency, alarm bells start to go off. What exactly does this declaration mean?
Well, the first thing to say is people shouldn't panic when they hear this.
Health officials battling the H1N1 flu virus this weekend have received 2 booster shots of their own. President Obama has declared the virus a national emergency.
Notice a slight difference in the coverage. That is how corrupt the media mob in this country has become in 10 short years. That is disturbing. What they have done and what they are currently doing is hurting our country. This defines them. You ever had any doubt that they have an agenda? Well, that proves our case. Never before has there been this unholy, corrupt alliance existing between the mob and the media and the one party they love with their agenda only. The same people that have been lying hour after hour, day after day, week after week, month after month now for over 3 years. Russia, Russia, Ukraine, Ukraine, impeach, impeach, Corona, Corona. That's how disgustingly corrupt they are to the core. It is repulsive. Anybody that watches that video, 1,000 Americans dead, no urgency. It was like nothing had happened. Meanwhile, President Trump, he takes unprecedented action. Within 3 weeks, travel ban, quarantine. What does he get? Criticism. If you listen only to the mob and the media, you might think that the president maybe caused the virus. You begin to think that, oh, he probably cooked it up in a laboratory somewhere to destroy the country, likely with Putin and Russia and Ukrainian mad scientists. That's how distorted and conspiratorial and the level of hysteria and lying that's gone on for 3 years. This alliance is hurting this country. They are not serving we the people in any way, shape, matter, or form. They are advancing a political agenda. Journalism, I declared in 2007, is dead. It is dead. It is done. It is buried. And it has now become disgraceful, state-run, liberal, radical, extreme socialist TV. That's who they are. You would think the world is coming to an end listening to them. This virus is serious. We've been telling you that from day one. We need to take the flu seriously. We need to take cancer seriously, this virus seriously. Of course, we all need to prepare accordingly. And by the way, this is not pie in the sky tonight. This will be innovative. This will allow future presidents to have travel bans a lot easier. This will allow this time of cooperation between the top companies in this country to work hand in hand with our government to keep us safe. But you do need to understand, this is a fact, there are going to be dramatic increases in the weeks ahead of the number of Americans who test positive. And they're going to hype that up, I guarantee it. That's what the mob does, and they'll blame Donald Trump every second. They can't acknowledge a single good thing this president has done. They're against the travel ban, xenophobic, racist. They're against the quarantine. That alone saved countless thousands of Americans from contracting the virus. That one decision literally saved thousands of Americans from contracting this disease. Racist, xenophobic. We expect at some point, 4 to 6 weeks, according to all the experts that I've been talking to, hopefully, like in China, there will be a leveling off. That's where, hopefully, that will be followed by a dramatic decrease and reduction in new cases, and hopefully then back to normal life. If you are generally a healthy person under the age of 80 and you don't have underlying health issues or a compromised immune system or getting chemotherapy or autoimmune problems of any kind, the odds of getting coronavirus and dying are slim to none. Some people have no symptoms. Some people have mild symptoms. Some people will feel like it's a flu, a respiratory flu. Now, but we got to be careful for those people that are sick. And if you do know people that are sick, you got to keep a distance. Look out for your friends and neighbors. The basic, simple things we've been talking about. In the coming days and weeks, as more Americans get tested, expect that sharp rise. It will be confirmed. Don't panic. Ultimately, we believe it will level off. We will begin a precipitous decline. Let's hope we all can get back to normal.